Today I'm making these easy 4-ingredient classic popovers. Plus I'll be sharing my tips and tricks on how to really get them to pop.
Welcome y'all to Robin on the Farm. Today I have such a fun recipe to share with y'all. This is a recipe for popovers. As a bread maker, I think popovers are so fun because they're kind of a fancy replacement for any time you would need a bun or a piece of bread. So these are fun. They're a little bit fancier, a little bit richer and more decadent, but very, very simple to make. There's only 4 ingredients: all-purpose flour, milk, eggs, and salt, and that is it. So you should have all of these ingredients in your pantry. So let me just show you how to make them. There are several tricks and tips for making popovers that'll make them that much better, but I'll share those with you as we go. To get started, we want some flour. Now the order in which you put these in your bowl and mix is gonna make a big difference, because if you put it all together and mix it up, you're gonna get clumps. So start with your flour. We want 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. You don't need your bread flour, you don't need self-rising flour, just all-purpose flour. 1.5 cups. Now I'm gonna leave the recipe in grams and in cups and spoons down in the description. I'll have the printable recipe down there for you. But just simply put in 1.5 cups right on into a mixing bowl. And I'm just gonna mix this up by hand today. I'm not gonna get out a mixer. I'm not gonna dirty up anything that I don't need to. So this is just a really easy, quick recipe to put together. Now, before you get started, go ahead and get your oven preheating to 450 degrees. Now that's another tip. When you get your oven preheating, you wanna go ahead and put your pan in there, but we'll talk about that in a second too. So after your flour, now we're gonna add our milk. So I am gonna add 1.5 cups of milk. I'm using whole milk, but you can use any kind of milk alternative, oat milk. You can also use skim milk, 1%, 2%, but just put that right on into your bowl, 1.5 cups. Now the trick with the milk and the eggs is that you want both of them to be room temperature. Now with your milk, you can just pop it in the microwave for about a minute and it'll heat up plenty. With your eggs, you either want to get them out a little bit early before you start your recipe, or you can submerge your eggs in some warm water for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's a great trick. That's what I did with these. So I had these in a bowl of water until right before I cracked them. Okay, now that we have these 2 ingredients in our bowl, we're gonna go ahead and mix them up. Now, like I said, the order is important, because if you went ahead and added your eggs, you're gonna get clumps that you just wouldn't ever be able to get rid of, even if you're using like hand beaters or an electric mixer. So just take a minute and mix the flour and the milk up until it's nice and smooth. Once you have that nice and smooth, now it's time to add the eggs. We want 3 large eggs. Mine are room temperature, so just put them right on in there with your milk and your flour. And then I'm just gonna whisk these up too. Now to whisk up this batter, I'm using this really cool Danish dough whisk, but any kind of whisk will work. I definitely recommend a whisk to mix all this up really well instead of like a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula. So just whisk this up really good. And our very last ingredient already is some salt. I'm gonna use a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now any salt that you wanna use is gonna be great. I love this Redmond's real salt. This is my favorite salt to use in all of my baking. It's an ancient fine sea salt from North America. It's a really pretty pink color. I like this. Okay, just add that right on into your batter, and then I'm just gonna mix it up one last time. Now I love making and eating popovers because they're so versatile. You can make them savory or sweet. If you wanna eat them for breakfast, they're really great if you wanna open them up, put some eggs, bacon, cheese inside. Oh, that is such a treat. Or you can have them really simply with a little bit of butter and strawberry jam. That's really good too for breakfast. For lunch, I like to open them, put some lettuce and tomato, some tuna or turkey salad inside, and they are phenomenal like that. Like I said, you can use popovers anywhere that you would just use a bun or a plain piece of bread. So this is just kind of a fancy special thing to make. You can also make a really yummy dessert. If you just have some strawberries or some fresh fruit, put some whipped cream in there with that. Ah, what a good treat, what a great dessert. So popovers are fun. I highly recommend you try these. Okay, these are already all mixed up. That's all there was to it. 4 ingredients, just a few minutes, so simple. you can bake your popovers in a muffin pan. This works great. You probably have a muffin pan. Maybe not what I'm going to use, but what I'm going to use is called a popover pan. So it's a specialized pan just for these popovers, and it works great. This is a really cool pan. The wells are a little bit deeper than a muffin pan, but the main thing is that it has all of this space in between the wells, and that'll allow the heat to get up in between each one and really allow the popovers to pop, because they're popovers and that's what they're gonna do. They are so fun to make. You're gonna love making these. And if you have any little kids around, they are gonna love these too. So whether you're using a popover pan or a muffin pan, make sure you get them preheated nice and hot in the oven before you put your batter in, and that will help your popovers to pop. The other secret is to be sure that you grease up your pan really, really well. You don't want your popovers to stick into your pan, or that is really disheartening, and these can stick really well. So oil up your pan, the bottom, the sides, this little top half, or if you're using one of these muffin pans, make sure you oil all of this up too. So that's my next tip. Now, normally when I use like my cast iron muffin pans, I like to just put some olive oil or some coconut oil and just spread it all over. With this pan, spraying is a lot easier for me. So I'm gonna use this coconut oil spray, and I'm gonna spray this really, really well. So be sure you spray your pan. And if you can see, I'm spraying it really good. I'm probably making a huge mess in my kitchen right now, but that's okay. You see I'm spraying all on the top, the sides, the bottom, all of it. Now it's time to get our batter into the pan. Now you kind of want to work fast once you get your pan out of the oven so that it stays nice and hot. Now I like to use one of these bowls with the pourable spout. I think that's really nice for this. Now another tip for popovers is that you want to fill up each of your wells about 2/3 of the way full. If you overfill them, they won't pop as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Now this recipe makes 12. So if you only want to make 6, then half the recipe. So I'm going to fill each of these up about 2/3 of the way full, and that is plenty. That'll allow them some space to expand and to pop up. Now these are classic popovers. If you want to add any vanilla extract or almond extract, if you want them to be a little bit more sweet rather than possibly savory, then you can add that too. But these are just classic 4-ingredient popovers. Now that I have each of these 12 wells filled up with my popover batter, it's time to throw these in the oven. Now, I'm gonna let these bake at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. And then, without opening the oven door, if you open the oven door, these might collapse. I'm gonna reduce the temperature down to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna let them continue baking for about 10 to 15 minutes. I usually let mine bake for about 12 minutes. Now, remember, don't open your oven once you put them in there. The first time of 20 minutes will help them to pop up and rise, and those last 10 to 15 minutes will help them continue to bake all the way through into the center. Okay, y'all, look at these gorgeous popovers. Aren't these so fun? Did you expect them to do this? I just love that about popovers. Okay, now this is the next trick. This is an important part. You want to take a knife, and you want to just poke a hole into each one. That's gonna let the steam out so they don't get all soggy, so they don't deflate. That'll really help. So poke a hole in each one, and that's all there is to it. Ooh. Now I oiled these up really well, so these are coming out so easily. Let me just show you. Look at that. This came right on out of the well. And you do want to get them out of your pan really quickly so that they don't start getting all soggy. So if you didn't oil them up well enough, then these would be stuck in there. They would be ripping apart, and that would be so sad. So be sure you oil up your pan, whatever kind of pan you use, really, really well. There we go. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, I'm going to tear into one so you can see it. Now this is the cool thing about popovers. Look at that. They're kind of hollow inside. Isn't that so cool? I just think it's so cool. Now, this is when you open it up. You can put some chicken salad in there, some lettuce, tomatoes. You can fill them with eggs, cheese, ham. You can just add some strawberries and some whipped cream on top. That is so delicious. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bite. Aren't they fun? They're like flaky, they got layers. Oh. They're so good. Popovers are really one of my favorite things to make just because they're so fun, they're so different, and they're so easy. 4 ingredients, you really can't go wrong.
I'll leave the printable recipe for these easy 4-ingredient classic popovers down in the description and on my website, robinonthefarm.com. Thank you so much for being here with me on Robin on the Farm. I'll see you next time.
Robin's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough. With flour on her apron, loving each need.